Narcissists want you to keep your attention on them at all costs, whether it's good attention, bad attention, even your attempts to punish them, your desire to see their downfall, nourishes and supplies them because it shows that you still have some purpose in their life, that you still hold some meaning to them. And that's what narcissists want. Narcissists want proof and evidence that they mean something to people, that people somehow place some form of value on them, even if it's hatred. Because narcissists themselves, they don't really have purpose. They don't really have a sense of meaning. They don't really connect well with themselves. So they need other people to reflect that back to them, to be evidence and proof of their own worth. And that's why, for the narcissist, their kryptonite, the worst thing that can happen to them is to become irrelevant to you, to become irrelevant to somebody who once held them as an object of their attention, somebody who once did place some form of value and meaning towards the narcissist. And when you do that, when you sufficiently detach from the narcissist, where they don't hold any significant meaning in your life, where they're not somebody that you care to care for, nor do you care to punish, you just don't care one way or the other, they are irrelevant to you. That's where narcissists, they struggle to accept that. In fact, narcissists don't really have the coping mechanisms to deal with a situation where somebody who once held them in high regard now no longer cares one way or the other. Because it makes the narcissist feel like they don't exist. It makes them feel like they're insignificant. It brings all their core wounds to the surface. When you were focusing your attention on them, when you were caring for them, even when you were upset with them, trying to get them to explain their wrong ways and get them to understand your point of view, every time you were efforting towards them in any way, they were getting supply from that. They were getting some form of ego stroke from that. They were getting a sense of meaning from that. And all of that helped keep their core wounds, their shame, their unlovability, their lack of worth. All of that would keep those undesirable feelings and traits subdued. But when you're no longer focusing on them, when they become irrelevant, these things come back to the surface. And then narcissists by nature, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with those feelings because they can't process those feelings. That's why they're always trying to subdue the feelings, run from the feelings, distract themselves. And when people show to them, not through words or any particular actions, but just by the way they carry themselves, that the narcissist has no meaning in their life, narcissists, they do start to scramble in this kind of energy of how can I bring this person's focus back on me, and it's not just about that. Narcissists go into this state of denial. They always try to convince themselves that you'll come around. They try to convince themselves that somehow you have the bad end of the stick. And at some point, the fact that you have the bad end of the stick will manifest itself clearly. But it never really does, because when you move on, you actually have the good end of the stick. And the narcissist's delusional manufacturing of ideas and so on can't really change reality. So narcissists are always trying to change reality in their mind to suit their narrative, to suit their ego, to suit their personal needs. But just because they have their own core issues and they are in denial as to their own core issues and where they stand with you, that denial doesn't actually change reality. And so narcissists, they exhaust themselves in the hope and expectation that you'll come around, and other people too. They exhaust themselves in this kind of state of denial, playing mental gymnastics after mental gymnastics, trying to convince themselves that somehow they do still hold meaning to you, that they are of somebody of worth. And sometimes quite creepily, they do the weirdest of things. Sometimes narcissists can be quite scandalous, jumping from a victimhood mindset to even being some kind of perpetrator trying to punish you, then going back to victim trying to get your sympathy. They would do the most scandalous things, can be quite dramatic in the things they play out to try to get your attention, just to get you to somehow focus yourself on them again. Because narcissists, they need to know that they matter to you. They need to know that they matter to you. if you ever were somebody who they held in high regard, if you ever were somebody who did focus on them as the object of your attention, and they somehow benefited from that, but now they lost it, they can't accept the fact that you move on, because narcissists don't know how to move on from people. Narcissists can enter into momentary periods of boredom, anger, indifference, and they kind of devalue, discard you because of these feelings. And importantly, sometimes they have distractions that are more pronounced. But for the narcissist, none of that is moving on. For the narcissist, all of that is just a temporary factor that shifts their attention away from you for the time being. But the role that you played in their life always resurfaces, and there's this void that you filled that they always need to fill again. So then they find themselves trying to recapture that and regain that. But narcissists, doing as narcissists do, they often push people away, such that when the narcissist is no longer part of your life, sometimes you're okay for a while because they're either distracted with something different, or they're in denial about the permanency of the detachment, and they think that you'll come back around, or they think that you'll sympathize and warm up to them should they want to come back around. But as time goes on, you are moving on every day. You have moved on, but the narcissist never really did. For the narcissist, if anything, they suppressed certain feelings, they suppressed certain emotions, they suppressed certain needs, and they reached the point where they have to have those needs being met again. And then if you're not in the picture, they struggle. And then even if they had somebody else who they were temporarily distracted with, and those people were somehow giving them some euphoria because it's a new person that was stroking their ego in a different way and so on, there was something more deep. There was a more in-depth connection with you if you were somebody who was actually important to them, where when the euphoria of this new distraction fades away, that distraction isn't carrying them forward anymore, and all of a sudden they're back in their status quo, and then they have this void, this gap, and then they don't know how to fill it, and then they remember that you used to help them fill it, but you're not there anymore. And of course they can try to get other people to fill it, but that's an extremely difficult task for the narcissist. It's an extremely difficult task for the narcissist to find people who A, they're interested in, who B, they consider worthy of them, who C, those people will entertain the narcissists, and D, supplies them in the right way and they stick around. And there's a whole lot of ifs and buts, and few people fit the profile for the narcissist. And that's exactly why when you become irrelevant to them and you move on, narcissists, they don't really have the coping mechanisms to deal with that kind of thing.